healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey, bacon, avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, rain possible with a low of 35, then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 54. Let Natural Lawn handle your lawn care so you can enjoy your lawn. Organic-based, environmentally friendly lawn care for over 30 years. Safer products for kids, pets, and the planet. 100% satisfaction guarantee. More at naturallawn.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me on this Monday evening. I really appreciate it. Tonight is going to be a slightly different sort of program, and I have with me tonight my guest, Sara Jane, part of Get Haunted, Paranormally Blonde, does a lot of events and whatnot. And first, before we go any further, Sara, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm all right. And I asked Sara to join me tonight because I wanted to do a form of an editorial tonight. And I'm probably going to make a long story long, and I do apologize for that. But there's something I want to talk about, and it feeds into the topic for tonight. And that is, normally I'll talk about what kind of weekend I've had. Am I having a good weekend? I hope everyone out there has had a great weekend. As many of you have known, for the past 2.5 months, I've been promoting this Meta Paracon that was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin over the past weekend. And we promoted it quite a bit. We also had our promo code with it, as far as you can get 10% off. It had some really incredible names in the paranormal, Jason Haas, a lot of other names. And I was fortunate enough to have been asked to be the official podcast for the convention, as well as being there and doing some lives while we were there. And it all seemed to be a pretty cool situation. I was very excited for it. It's the first time I've been asked to do such a thing. And, it does build your confidence. It makes you feel happy, makes you feel like that your peers are very interested in having you, part of their community and whatnot. So it was very exciting. But I had talked to Terry Flick, who put on the event back in, I think, end of January, early February. And he runs Soul Synergy, and they do a lot of also metaphysical events around, I would say maybe around the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin sort of thing. And we, at the time, we had talked about a fee. and we talked about accommodations, and which was great. This is new territory for me. I'm not going to lie. And when we got to, I got to about a week out, and I thought to myself, I don't know a whole lot what's going on with this convention. I don't know about if that fee that we talked about, if that's the fee that we wanted to. I don't know if like that he would agree on. I don't know about the accommodations that we had talked about. Nothing was in writing. And I'm going to be very frank and say that's on me, first of all, for not thinking about that as the person. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight, as the person who is being invited to these things. It's kind of up to me to make sure that I'm protecting myself. And so that information, I didn't have that. I knew we were going to talk about it. Next thing you know, we're a week out, and I'm like, oh, we didn't get to that part. So I had asked the week back. I asked if Terry had any guests that he would like to bring on the show for last Monday, so that we could promote the program, this event in Eau Claire, really heavily promote it, really get people excited about it. And he had some names that were going to be at the convention that he said that he would get. It ultimately, that part didn't work out, which is just how it goes. But I hadn't heard back from him. So the Monday of the show, I just sent him a note, and I was like, Terry, do you have any guests for me tonight? If not, I can pivot. That's not a problem. And then I said in my email, I want to make sure that the amount that we agreed to is this for my fee. And then also want to make sure that we are in agreement about accommodations. So he responded to me, and he said, well, I don't have any guests for tonight, but you can have me for half an hour. And by that point, I already had like an idea of what kind of show I wanted. So I just said, if it's all right with you, Terry, I'm not going, I'd rather just kind of go alone tonight, which funny enough was a show that like my equipment blew out. And then he responded to me about everything else. Let's talk tomorrow. Okay. So, okay. And to me, that was kind of a red flag, because I put in the email, this is what we said. This is about the accommodation. So instead of being like, yep, you're correct, it's like, let's talk tomorrow. To me, that was already a little bit like, okay, all right, well, let's talk tomorrow. Let's talk Tuesday. I never heard from him again. And what that means is that I knew something was up, and I refused to be the one to follow up every day. What's going on? It's like, let's just see how this goes. And I did not hear from him for the rest of the week. Going into the event, I did not hear from him. After the event, I did not hear from him. I've never heard from him again. So from going to be part of this event to being, sidelined, ghosted, whatever you want to call it. You like that, didn't you? I was just like, because I knew this was going to happen. I knew that this was going to happen. And and part of it too is like, well, maybe we'll get an email from someone in the organization, just a generic sort of, you're coming to this convention. To get your table, you need to check in here. To get your badge, you need to do this. To do, just a very general sort of like, welcome to MetaParagon. Got none of that. I don't know if anyone else got any of that, but I got absolutely none of that. And so I just knew this was kind of where we're going. And some people might be like, well, why didn't you go anyway? Why didn't you just go out there and, show up? I'm sure you would have been taken care of. Maybe, but I'm not driving 3.5 hours, whatever it is. That's probably 2.5 still, to be told, oh, well, we don't have this, or you can't stay, we can't pay you, and pack up all your stuff and go. It just doesn't work that way. Not to me. And that's the self-worth that we're going to be talking about as well. That comes into this as well. And so I was very, I wasn't upset about it. I was more disappointed because I knew, and any of us who have any kind of abilities, we kind of get that. And I don't think you even have to say you have abilities. I think you just have that sort of like It's in the back of your mind. You know it's happening. You know that something isn't right. And you just want to see it played out. And it played out exactly as I thought it would. And so what ended up happening is that, Sunday came and I was like, okay. And I talked to people at the event over the weekend. People reached out to me, like Joe Frankie, who was one of the guests there. He's like, where are you? I thought you were going to be out here. And I explained it to him. And he's just like, well, there's no one else here. You should have showed up. And that's because there was no attendance. It was, there was nobody. I mean, very low attendance. And my guess, without hearing from Terry, is that I was probably considered like an unnecessary expense. And they were trying to cut costs. They're trying to save whatever money they can. But here's the thing. If that's the case, send me a note. Just be a human being and tell me that this is what's going on. It doesn't mean it's going to be a great conversation, but what it does mean is that you treated me like a human being, and that did not happen. You discarded me as somebody who, that you could just not even talk to, and now you're ignoring me. And that's a problem. For somebody like Terry, who claims to be psychic, who claims to be one with metaphysical, you totally have not read my energy at all about this. And it's, as I looked on Soul and Synergy's website, when they want to have people to do events with them, one of the things that they point out is transparency, that we're transparent about everything. You're not transparent. And what the problem is here is that all it would have taken is one conversation just to be like, this is the reality. Because I've been to Paracons before, Las Vegas being one, ran by someone who did not know their head from their butt and caused a lot of issues. And but you could see that was going pear-shaped as well. And that's where you just have to be like, sometimes you can't always deliver great news, but you should still do it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So, I said I'm not mad about it. Clearly it does upset me because I want to be treated like a human being. And this is what our conversation is tonight, about how do we protect ourselves and what to really look out for. Because I brought Sara in because Get Haunted does a lot of events. They're helping out with one I'm taking part in October at Rock Island. This is where it's all about how to put on an event, how to make people feel good, how to make people who are guests, who are the public, how everything. And if you are somebody trying to make a name for yourself, trying to get into these things and be able to take part, how do you protect yourself so that you are able to basically you're able to protect yourself, make sure that you are counted as a person. Did that make any sense, Sara? Do you think I lost all listeners tonight with that?
You did not lose all listeners. Okay. And I think you're speaking for many of us that do not have the sort of celebrity tag, right, on our name. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me that you said earlier was we were talking about community, and that is not speaking about the field, because the field we have such a great passion for, right? Everybody on the side here, everybody that we work with has a passion for the field. So we're not slamming the field in any way. No. I don't even know that it's community, so to speak. I do think, and I've always brought in the social media aspect has really sort of, I think we're confusing a little bit of the social media with the actual community, because when we get out there together, it's a little bit of a different vibe. But you're correct. What we work really, really hard, with Get Haunted. Rob and I have always said it is about you. It's about the community. And
about me. Okay, cool.
It's about you.
I'm glad something's about me.
It is. And, I think that's the other part, right? With the Paranormal Podcast program, it's letting everybody have a voice. And right before the show started, you and I were talking about if we don't include community, if we don't let everybody share their passion and have the same opportunities, then there's no need for a celebrity. We all feed into each other, and I think this is where we get a little confused, right? We put so much effort into a celebrity. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not a slam on them.
No.
But we pay them, we cater to them, we give them all the speaking. But there are so many of us out there, Greg, that want to hear what Greg Bakun has to say, what a Sara has to say, because we are the boots on the ground. We might not have TV shows, and maybe we don't have giant YouTube channels, but we are out there working our passion, right? We're putting ourselves out there. And so somebody might resonate with us a little bit more. So I think and I don't know this person that you're speaking of, and I don't know the con, so to speak. But I think this is where a lot of paracons do get it wrong. I think what we have learned is that a celebrity doesn't necessarily equal attendance.
Yeah.
It just means you have a celebrity. And to me, not every paracon, not every expo needs to be waiting in line for an autograph. There are people who drive distances, such as you were going to do, to share and to add something to somebody else's exploration and journey in the paranormal. And I think to discredit that, and to make you feel like, and again, I don't know, because I don't know him, but we shouldn't just give to the TV celebrity and then push the Greg Bakuns aside, because what would you don't know, you might have brought in a lot of people, right? Because people want to come talk to you and see you, and you have this amazing, you had a piece in that, which was doing a live, which you're going to also be doing at Rock Island. And that's a huge piece. You're connecting the community, to the field. That's a huge thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's, and for me, it just comes down to, and I think we could break down the celebrity side of it when we get into the next segment. To me, it comes down to the fact that, if you start thinking that you're bringing people on and they're expendable, I can understand that things change. I can understand that, we can't do this, but we can maybe do this. And that it is, important that at the end of the day, that you keep people to be, keep their worth, their value.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, it makes no sense why you couldn't just have a simple conversation. Like I said, these aren't great conversations. It'd be it's disappointing, but rather have that than just kind of wondering what's going on, what's happening there. And think about it. I think you and Rob would never do that. I just know that. It's just, you would never do that. You would never do that to anybody. If something were to change, you would explain it to them.
Well, but we have done that, and we've had to do that, and for business reasons, and it doesn't always work out great. And I think that's when we talk about.
That's not on you, though. That's not on you, though.
No, but I think this is, I think what your topic of what we can do as investigators and people who research and do all this stuff that's in the field, how do we protect ourselves? I think it comes on all sides. And Greg, honestly, what always comes to mind when these conversations happen is opportunist versus opportunity. And I think those are two very, I think we all can say we know opportunist and we know opportunity, and the line really isn't that thin between the two of them. I don't think
it isn't. And something else that we had talked about last week when all this was going down, because there's a few people that I was texting with over the whole weekend, boring everyone with my my rage. And part of it was, are you chasing money or are you chasing passion? There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money off of these things. There's nothing wrong with, that's what we do these events for. But are you doing it because you have a passion for it? Or are you doing it because you think this is what everyone wants and I think that I can make money off of it? That's my thought on that.
No, I agree. And I think here's how I sort of view it. I think if you're an opportunist, hey, that's great. That's good. Not all of us are. And I think this is where, you have to also understand when you sort of gather the opportunists, you kind of get what you have created, right? And it's not always, I think, buildable. And it is something we are working on with, being able to work with you. You are a major sponsor and piece of the Rock Island Expo. And, to be able to make this a community-wide expo where, yes, there are some very notable names.
Yep.
But you know what? There are also teams and artists and authors and location owners that might not have the same notoriety, but they deserve the same respect because they're in the field with us and they work hard and they're generous with their time and their location and their passion. So how do we support each other? How do we support each other in the community that are creating and looking for opportunity while sort of being like, that's great, you're an opportunist, that's great, not interested.
Very much so. We're getting so into this that I'm sort of forgetting that we also have to take commercial breaks. So why don't we do this? Let's take our first break, come back. I want to talk about celebrities being at these things, the role that they play. How do we balance it? We have Sara with us. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. And I just want to remind everybody, if you are watching from GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook, I would like to ask you think about giving me some stars. It helps the algorithm. It helps get people to know more about the show. I've been seeing in some of the comments, some people are wondering why, if they're watching on YouTube, there's not more people there. Likewise with Facebook, it just helps get people out there. A star is a couple of pennies. So if feel free, please, to do so, I'd be very grateful. I do see Ernie Pack in the comments, and I know he does not even make a couple pennies. So you are excluded from that, Ernie. We don't have to worry about that. And we know that that actually is like very much needed for you. We are talking about the reality of the paranormal community. We're talking about different ways to protect yourself. I have with me tonight special guest Sara Jane, part of Get Haunted, Paranormally Blonde. Thank you very much, Sara, for joining me tonight. And there's a couple comments in here that I think are worthy to read here from this. Let's see here. Don says, I agree, Greg, which is why I put that up on screen. I agree, Greg. The people with The people with passion could get taken advantage of. And I think there's something very important there that, that I wanted to talk about. And I'd love your thoughts on it, Sarah. It's like, especially, I feel like in this field in particular, I've never been a part of anything where, and I don't know if it's still as rampant, but when I got on, especially, it seemed like TV networks were plucking people out of teams to do TV shows, right? And so everybody in the field, and that's a generalization, but a lot of people in the field were like, I'm going to, I have a chance to be on TV. I have a chance to be famous. I have the chance to be Jason Haas or Zach Bagans or whomever at that point. And so that was a big driver. It felt like to a lot of people were looking for that fame. And so they were willing to do anything. They're willing to, whatever it takes to get into the Paracons, to speak, whatever. I'll do anything. I'll do anything to get on a TV show. I'll wear a sack on my head and try to have people scare me, this sort of weird stuff. And you still get that. And it's like, I think you have to really think about that. You have to think about your worth. And I'm not saying if someone, wants you to take part in something that you're going to charge $1,000 or something, but you also have to make sure that it's like the pros and cons for it. Is it sustainable for you? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, look, in the end, I hear a lot of people will say this, like, oh, we're all in this for the same reason. And I don't agree with that. We are not all in this for the same reason. Some people are in this because it's very trendy. Some people think this could be, what will launch them to the next level of YouTube or social media, right? Or maybe they'll get on TV. Some people are doing it because they just have a passion. Some of us are doing it for our own personal reasons, for exploration and meeting new people. I don't think any of us are in this for the same reason. And if you are looking for the TV show, I think there's
just to let you know, did I come across as saying that everybody is in it for the same reason?
No, you didn't.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
You did not say that. But I do hear.
Is she yelling at me on the air? Okay.
No, you don't say that. But a lot of people do say that. And I think this is where I feel like, look, whatever your reason is your reason. And I think that if you want to be on TV, for me, just for Sarah, I don't look at TV as my end goal, because I do feel like once you sort of hit that level, there's a little bit of a shelf life, right? And then once you've reached the celebrity status, how do you come back to earth with the rest of us and, sort of get sort of absorbed back into the community in a sense where now we're talking of like, don't you want to talk about your actual thoughts and theories and step outside of some beliefs? But, are you sort of beholden to those networks or to that sort of persona that you've created because you're on TV? Again, there's nothing wrong with that. We're just not all into that. So I think everybody comes into it. And I think this is where the social media piece sort of watered it down, right? Because people saw it as a trend and it's an easy genre to get into. And, look, now you don't even have to believe in the paranormal. Now you can be in the paranormal community, so to speak, and be a debunker and just, crap all over everybody's parade, right? Because that's a trend. Yeah. So, I think this is where we have to sort of decide we can't control everybody else, right? But we can control ourselves, and we can be around the people that motivate us and inspire us to be what we think the community or the pieces of the community we want to be involved in.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to take it very personal for a second. I'm going to say that when I talk about going forward, when I'm talking about television, I am leaving out Haunted Discoveries, the TV show, because they're not network driven.
Right.
Okay. And
right.
that's a big deal. As somebody who was close to getting his own show, I knew, and the reason why we didn't get it because we weren't scary enough, which in hindsight, thank you, Lord, because everything you said, Sarah, you're absolutely right. You have a shelf life. And, the stuff that's network driven, I don't care what anyone says, a majority of that stuff has some sort of enhancement to some of it. And I can, as far as like the investigations. Like maybe we're not seeing everything as accurately, even if it's as simple as something goes off and you cut to a reaction shot of somebody that was taken 6 days before, 6 days after. That's not accurate. So to be able to, all that stuff plays into it, where you get asked about this stuff 100 times, and that you have to remember, how did that really go? How did it really go versus how does it how did the public see it? So you have to kind of think of all that.
But that's the issue, right? We know for most of us, we understand that network television and anybody that has taken on that role to be, they might have had these great, beautiful theories and thoughts and beliefs, and then they went on network, and guess what? You're there to sell their ad spots. You're not there to sell yourself. This is like the music industry, right? You see the indie musicians that are like, no, thank you to the big labels, because I want to do music the way I want to do it, right? So that's why people do take to YouTube. And I get that, and I can appreciate that. But I think, who are we upset about? Because the celeb and the network can truly inspire somebody to go, oh, you know what? I really do love paranormal. And look, I could get this equipment and I can do that. And that's great. And it is, look, we all have a little bit of that in us, right? We all can't deny that there wasn't a show that we watched, we did. Yeah, but I think it's, who are we trying to emulate? And I think this is where I get a little bit confused, because for those that are curious and new, if you're looking at the shows to be your Bible, I think that is a dangerous road to take. And I think this is why it is important for organizers who are putting on these cons and expos. You really need to have a beautiful balance. Yes, I get that there are big names that make a draw. I get that. But if you also don't feather in the amazing people in the community that are working so hard and they're so talented, and they offer conversations that they are allowed to have, because there's not a network saying, you cannot say that stuff. You've got to keep within these parameters. I think this is the disservice. So I think expos and paracons really have a responsibility, and they should take it that way, right? This is not, you can only go to a dozen paracons in a year and see the same 5 celebrities. After a while, you're like, what am I getting from this, right? What am I getting?
I've often said, if you're new to the field and you're seeing and you start like joining not teams, but Facebook pages and stuff, and you see all these paracons being advertised around the country, you might believe that there's only 5 people in this field. Right. And that's not a slight against those 5 people. No. Because there's nothing wrong with, no one has to stop and be like, well, I've gone to 3 this year. I've been invited to 3. It's time for someone else to have a fair share. It's all about supply and demand. But at what stage? And I think we saw this past weekend that perhaps demand is either not there or it wasn't being advertised in a way that people knew it was happening. I don't know.
And I think this is where, what we're working towards in October is we want to make sure, not just for those people that will attend as a guest and a part of the community, but those that have taken the time to travel, to, bring merchandise, to create presentations. You've got a couple amazing things that you're going to be doing at this. I think if we're not making it worth your time and their time, then, what is it about? Is it about notoriety for the, the organizer? Is it about making any kind of money? Or is it truly about bringing the community together? In my opinion, in my short time in this part of this kind of area of the community, going to the many paracons that I have, the opportunity that I'm looking at and helping sort of create alongside you and Candy and Rob and Lisa Viner, it is truly supposed to be, when you walk out of there, it's not, we want you to buy from the vendors. We do. We want you to support them, because that does help them, just like the stars, right? This helps keep them going. But we want you to fill your toolbox of knowledge and new thoughts and practices and beliefs to go out there and to do deeper exploration. And maybe you will find, new groups of friends or a team or somebody. I mean, we don't know until we're in person. And I think shed that internet, right? Shed the internet for 5 seconds, go in person, meet these people that are boots on the ground and that give their time so willingly. And yeah, I think the more we sort of look at how many Paracons get, put on and for what, now we kind of see some, and it's no big deal. Everybody, there's plenty of space for everybody, but then you kind of start to see Paracons where they're not even really about Paracons anymore. It's really not, it's very little paranormal, right?
Yeah.
So, where can we see those? Where can we start to how do we get face to face with a Greg Bakun? How do we have conversations with Greg? It can't always be through a show, right? How about a sit down or an across your table and let's chat?
Well, it's also amazing how many people's houses I just hang out around and they just look out a window. I'm there. So, I mean, that's one way as well. It's cheaper sometimes. And you forgot also for the Rock Island, that our goal is to have a couple of them be abducted by aliens. So, I mean, so there is that as well.
Where else can you get that?
Right? And for a nominal fee.
Yeah.
So interesting as we're talking about, like the big names, the really big names, and how all that kind of, plays into the big Paracons and stuff. I don't know if you agree with this, but I like the sound of this. And Talik Motorsports Media says, sounds like you're talking about the gatekeepers in the field. And I do think that there is, to a certain extent, there is a little bit of that. Maybe that's just my conspiracy side. And it's just more like people are watching over each other, making sure that, friends are getting into Paracons and stuff, that they're getting work. Some of these people, they don't have a show anymore. It's tough. And I'm not making light of it. It's tough. Like you said earlier, how do you fit yourself back into society when you're at a certain stage and now your show and what you were about is paranormal, and they're not making paranormal shows anymore. We see people doing sidelines, they're kind of trying to sidestep it to varying degrees of success, but so there's still people looking out for them. Nothing wrong with that either. But, I guess as the convention goer, you have to decide to a certain degree, what is it that you want? Do you want to meet, big names? And there's nothing wrong with that. I am not saying don't do that. Or are you going to walk away like trying to get a little bit deeper into discussions and theories about this subject?
Right. And I think, you and I sort of touched on this too. When you go, do you want to hear something that you could see on TV, or do you want to get, to me, when you have these opportunities to be in front of somebody, person to person, you want to talk about something that you can't see repeated or regurgitated, on TV or multiple shows. But, the gatekeeping thing, I don't know, like, look, I think that whole situation gets boiled down to this. Yeah, it happens in everything, right? I would assume it happens in the knitting club too. You're not going to get away from gatekeepers, but you have to ask yourself as an investigator, as somebody that, a show host or a business owner within this field, you have to ask yourself, what am I really doing this for? Am I doing this to open up doors and opportunities for the community, or am I really doing it to collect and validate myself? And I think that, when this situation came up and you and I sort of touched on it, I think this really stopped it. It made me stop and think about, I've been a curious person. I've been an investigator. I had a team. I then had a show, and now I'm, a business owner alongside Rob. And being in all those different areas, it does make me look at, like, does it make me look foolish? And I know there are people out there who would say that I'm not being honest about this, but I do what I do alongside Rob because I do believe in the community, and I believe in the field, and I believe in encouraging people with their passion. And because we have enough people out there that will crush it, right? There's
Okay.
people will take any opportunity. They sit and wait in the bushes so they can pounce on it, you know.
Yep.
So when I see certain paracons or events that go on and you know, you're not allowed, or there's people jumping in and commenting, oh, be careful about going to that event if they're there, because, you know,
Yep.
suddenly everybody's got big opinions. And you know what? We're all adults. Well, we should be, right? We're all adults and we're all going into these things and we just want to have our moment. And it's really nobody's business to try to stop somebody else from having the same opportunities. And, you know, if you want to go more the celebrity route, more power to you. And that's great. That's not like, I'm looking to connect with every single person that has a curiosity and a passion. And if we can help you, great. If we can't, great, move along and we'll all just keep going on our merry way, right?
Absolutely. And just those of you who are going to go down the celebrity route, just a little bit of advice. You put out one video does not make you a celebrity. Okay. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Just because I've seen that way too much. Let's take our next break. When we come back, we got a lot more to talk about. Folks are putting stuff into the comments. I want to read some of that as well. Put your thoughts to it. I'd love to hear what you have to say. We have Sara Jane from Get Haunted with us. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We are going to see the return of Kedrick Olson. A couple months ago, we had a conversation with him, and we ran out of time, maybe because he showed up 20 minutes late, but that's okay. He's going to show up on time tomorrow. We're going to have a great conversation. It was really getting good, and I'm like, we got to go. So Kedrick tomorrow, Wednesday, one-question readings with Psychic Medium, Refined Divine, one of my favorite shows to do. That's going to be a lot of fun. Thursday, we're doing a replay about a discussion I had with Robert K. Wilcox about the Shroud of Turin. And then Friday is Casual Friday. We have with us tonight for our final segment, Sara Jane from Get Haunted, Paranormally Blonde. And we have a lot of Weisenheimers in the comments tonight. It's funny. It's funny. If you want something to do after the show, go back to the live stream and read some of these clowns, what they have to say. My God, it's incredible. It's incredible. Are they even listening to the show? That's the real question. They're just making themselves laugh. So as I get through all of the comments to get to one that actually is kind of related to the program. Chuck says, and I think this is great. A con should be a new experience or an extension of what you want the con to be. Or I think perhaps you mean extension of what you want your passion to be. I would argue. And I look at it, and I know Chuck through. I might have mentioned it once or twice. I'm really into Doctor Who. I've been to a lot of conventions around the world, and locally here in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, there is a convention that is put on by fans, not by a big organization, but by fans. And it is really a very unknown little quantity of fandom that puts on one of the best conventions I ever see. It's called Council Room. There are others that are put on much bigger and much more like you get some sort of corporate involvement and stuff. And to me, right away, you lose that personality. And but at these, it just feels like that extension of your passion is much easier. I don't think we really have anything in the paranormal per se that is like a big company that puts them on. But, I think that's one of the things that I think what the Rock Island Paracon is going to be in particular is something that you get together and you can share your passion and you can share your just, and hopefully learn. I mean, we want people to learn and expand their knowledge on whatever they want to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think really what Candy has created, you have everybody from Nesper bringing the Devils on the Run tour, all the way through, teams and, coffee creators. I think this is what gets missed for me, what I've seen, and especially working now with Rob in a business sense, is that we sort of forget, once I'm going to just state it again, we forget that we're all needed. We're all needed to keep this community and this field running. It's got many moving parts. And, yes, there are going to always be those that love the big name celebs. There's going to be those that are just doing things quietly. And then you've got location owners and authors and, artists and all these people that make up this beautiful, diverse community and this, well, let's just say field, right? And I think when we forget that we're all needed, when you start boxing people out, when you start making them feel like, well, you're not allowed at this, you can't come to this, and this person can't go to this location. You start these, location owners make big declarations, unless you've truly committed a heinous crime. I get that. But when you start making these declarations like, oh, this group is no longer allowed to come to my locations, you're boxing out the community. You're not just hurting the one person you don't like or the group you don't like. You're hurting the community as a whole. And you're also hurting yourself. Because, this is just the way the world works. We're all different. And the paranormal is no different than the living world, folks. We all have very different beliefs. Yeah. And what we're here to do, what we should be here to do, is to encourage everybody to go out that wants to go out and explore their passion, period. I just, Greg, however you want to do it, I encourage that. And that inspires me. And I think, this boxing out and making these declarations and we're only going to do it this way in the celebrity, and I'm friends with this name. Okay, well, that's great. That person before they were a celebrity had friends. It's not like right. No. It's, and you brought up, and I'll bring it up here, is like boxing people out of locations and stuff, and I'm banned from a location that's an hour away from me. A hotel. It's a famous hotel. It's been on a lot of shows. I have no idea why I'm banned. And the person who frowns upon my existence, I guess, I had reached out to her. She's the owner of the hotel. And I just I don't know what happened, but I would love to talk about it. I'm not saying by the time that we're done talking that you and I will be best friends, but what was it? I'd like to, at least if it's something that I did, I'd like to apologize or understand. And her response was like, we never really were friends to begin with. So there isn't really anything to, some really kind of crappy sort of thing. And it's like, and kind of like, but there is nothing.
And I've heard from a number of people who have actually shared like messages about me from this person otherwise. So it's kind of like, once again, you don't want me at your location, that's fine, but keep in mind I do a lot of events, and I'm not saying that I'm gonna keep them in business, but why shut us out? Like you just said, why shut us out? At least be human once again enough to have a conversation about it. It's so easy for people to just delete us from existence. It's because they know they have the power to do so to speak.
Yeah, and in the end, what we have to look at is where do we what is it we really truly gain? And look, if you tried working with somebody and it just wasn't a match, it's okay, and you can move on. And despite popular, whatever about how we've departed from certain people, the reality is we've never gotten in their way to continue to do what they want to do in the paranormal. In fact, we encourage, please go out and do your thing. It's just not with us anymore. So I don't, even if you are no longer allowed at that location, I guess what I don't understand is, even for somebody like me, if I'm not allowed at something, the reality is you might think I'm small beans, but there might have been another person that really liked me and supports my mission, and then they decide, I don't want to go to your location. I don't get this. Why are we cutting our nose off to spite our face sort of situation? That's a weird concept to me.
And it's just something I wish I understood. It doesn't mean that by the time we got all figured out, that means that we'd all be skipping down the yellow brick road. But what it means is that at least I'd have understanding. And that's just but we talked about this in text, and we have about 4 minutes left in the program. We talked about this in text, you and I, back and forth, about how you got to be careful of what you say, because there is that you have to weigh the fact that these people might blackball you. And some people might be like, well, who cares? I mean, it goes either way. It could be a big deal, could not be a big deal. Like I've had a number of people knowing I was going to do this program today at the station, and one said to me very sensibly, are you sure you want to do that for any sort of future possibilities? And I said, I don't think there is future possibilities here, but there is the whole thing about, there was somebody who posted on Facebook, and I talked about this with you, talked about they're having a go at the Warrens traveling museum, and it just, like, this person gets invited to a lot of Paracons. It just seemed a bit rich to throw shade on anybody else's Paracon or anyone else's events. It just felt like poor form to me, and I just thought, I'd love to be able just to be polite and say, I just don't think that's the right way to do this, to talk about it. But I know right away I'm going to be just blackballed. I'll be banned from his page. I'll be taken out, and that's just because they have so many followers. They'll just get rid of the people who disagree with them, and that's just a fact.
And that's the sad reality is and again, see, it comes down to social media. So if you have a mob that will support you, and your ability or your inability to have an open mind to hear something you might not like, listen, we don't all believe the same thing, and that is okay. If you can't hear it, or if you can't be in the same room and allow someone else to make their own decision, then you need to ask yourself, as people like you and I, we have to ask ourselves, is this really somebody that I would want along on my journey? Listen, I'll tear down my beliefs so fast, it doesn't matter. But I also don't have books and shows that I am beholden to. You have to be able to say this. Not one person out there, not one, doesn't matter if you've been on TV or if you have a number of books, you don't know the final answer. You just don't. And so you should allow everyone the same opportunity to go out there and discover people and ideas without you getting in the way and stopping them from doing that. It's just not your job.
No. And Rob in the comments, and I agree. He says, we don't say names. We don't show who they are. So they continue. And you are 100%. That's why today I named Terry. And because this was something I felt was needed. I mean, and it is tough. It is tough to make those decisions. For me, this was a no-brainer. I've seen people do other things, and you never know. My band is from the Palmer House. I'm going to say it because what's the point? I'm not allowed in there anyway. I used to have a great relationship with them. My friends and I used to do a lot of events over there. Suddenly, last time I went, I got very much mistreated. And it's a shame because I love that place. It's a great location. So, you're right. People need to be able, and not to name and shame them, but just be like, hey, you're doing this. I reached out. I want to know why. This is unfair because we should all be able to work together.
Yeah. Well, is it about ourselves when we're doing these things, or are you trying to make the community better? And in my opinion, just my humble opinion, if we are sitting here and we're cutting people off from opportunity and we're deciding if they can and can't be somewhere, you are not about community. You are about yourself, and you are using and misusing and taking advantage of your power of your location or your friendships or your connections to celeb. In my opinion, I will always stand for community. I will always stand for anyone who wants to share their passion. And I will continue to help open those doors with Rob and find new doors and work with people like you every day, Greg. I will choose that every time.
We're not done with this conversation, I have a feeling, but we have to go. We have to go tonight. Everyone, Sara, thank you so very much. We'll be back tomorrow with Kedrick Olson. Everyone, let me know what you think of this. Have a good night.